just kind of walk us through what happened here this evening?
So there was a car show and a block party with food trucks and stuff, a gathering, celebrate Martin Luther King Day here this afternoon after the parade. And about 5:20, shots rang out, multiple shots in the midst of this this celebration. During that time, multiple people were shot. It sounds like, from our initial investigation here on scene, there was a disagreement of some sort between two parties, and unfortunately, they chose to resolve that with guns.
The car show block party was at the park here next to North 13th Street and Avenue M?
Correct.
At this point, how many people were shot?
Right now we have 8 people that we know of that are at the hospital that were shot. As of right now, there are none of them that are fatal. We do know of one that's in critical condition currently, but none of those fatal. We had another 2 individuals that were injured during the incident, just kind of during the melee afterwards, whether they were hit by a car, trampled by the crowd, as people were just scattering everywhere.
So that's 2 individuals who were hurt by the trampling, not more than 2 that you know of?
Not more than 2 that I know of right now.
You know, looking at the videos online, it looked like a pretty chaotic scene. It looked like kind of a lot of mayhem going on, a lot of chaos. Can you kind of just, you know, from what you've seen from the videos, kind of what's your impression of what happened following that shooting?
Yeah, and I reviewed a couple of different angles and videos myself, and it was mass chaos, as you can imagine, when shots ring out with, you know, there were 1,000+ people here at the event. And as the shots rang out, people were just running in all directions. As our deputies were arriving and going to entering the scene, you know, it was mass chaos there. There were people laying behind cars, laying behind anything they could lay behind. It was kind of hard to tell who was a victim and who was just hiding at that point. But our deputies did start to render aid on multiple people. There were people in the crowd that were rendering aid as well, and then there were some people that were loading people up in cars and taking them to the hospital as well.
At this point, is there any suspect information?
We're following up on several leads. We've got some tips from the community at this point, and from people that were here, and we've got detectives. We've probably got 30 to 40 personnel out between here and following up leads, as well as the hospital, that are on the ground. Our crime scene's here right now, working to try to recover any evidence that's potentially here on scene. But we are following up several leads as we speak right now.
Why are you guys doing this, not Fort Pierce Police?
It's county park.
Okay, it's a county park.
So county park generally falls under our purview.
At this point, do you believe there was either one shooter or more shooters? Is there a certain number of shooters you think there were?
We know of one, but just based on the evidence here on scene, I believe there's more than one. And again, as we, you know, speak to witnesses and as tips come in, because tips are coming in based on the information that's been put out through some of the social media channels, people's personal Facebooks and so forth, we are gathering a little bit more information. You know, one of the things that I would ask is if there's anyone that was here, anyone in the community with information, as always, please contact us immediately. And they can, if they want to remain anonymous, Crime Stoppers is always the best way to go, and there's always a potential reward with Crime Stoppers information, and that'll come directly to us. But they can call 911, the non-emergency line for 911 tonight, to report any information, or they can, you know, tomorrow, if they've got information and they want to report that as well, just call the sheriff's office as well.
regarding the 8 people who were shot and the 2 other who sustained injuries, is there any approximate age range of those?
I can tell you that they're all adults. There was a juvenile that was, I don't want to say trampled, but that was injured during the chaotic aftermath, but nothing that's life-threatening. But all of the victims thus far have all been adults that are being treated for gunshots.
Was that juvenile one of the 2 people you were referring to?
It was.
Was the sheriff's office, with this large gathering of people, which you say is probably more than 1,000, was the sheriff's office in the area for any kind of enforcement, just nearby, or were you just called to the scene after the incident?
No, we actually had a detail here. So, and the deputies that were on the detail, there were 2 deputies here that were on the detail, and they were on the south end of the park, which would kind of be where we are, but at the entrance to the park where they were stationed. They immediately ran towards the gunfire. Again, just watching the videos and so forth, it was very chaotic. People were running in all different directions, and you couldn't really tell. There were 2 different areas where shots were fired within the event, and but they never had any sight of a suspect or never saw anyone shooting during the incident. And once the scene had sort of stabilized, they immediately started rendering aid to multiple different victims as well on the scene.
And what's specifically taking place right now with this big presence?
So right now, over inside the scene where you see the crime scene tape, and then our command bus just up the road. So detectives right now are interviewing any potential witnesses that are on scene, people who maybe the food truck owners and so forth. They're also collecting evidence, whether it be shell casings or any other evidence of the crime that happened, of the incident that happened. And so right now there's mainly interviews and collecting evidence and establishing, trying to kind of determine where it started, where it ended up, and that way it helps us obviously with the investigation in the case.
My last question is just the sheriff's office reaction to the fact that this happened on Martin Luther King Jr. Day.
I'll give you a sheriff's office, our feelings on it as well as my personal feelings is it's really sad on a day that we're celebrating a leader in the civil rights movement, Martin Luther King, and a man who was about peace. And it's really unfortunate and it's sad that during a celebration of someone who represented peace and equality, that a disagreement results in a use of guns and violence to solve that disagreement. And that's what's really sad to me about what happened here. And then so many innocent people that were injured or hurt that were not part of the disagreement as well.
And then just for our record here, can you just say and spell your first and last name and give your rating?
Brian Hester, Brianhester, and I'm the Chief Deputy for the St. Lucie County Sheriff's Office.
Any more questions?
Nope.
We're going to go. Appreciate it.
All right.
Thank you.